It is a great pleasure to welcome Bianca Oblivion to this program. She is a DJ currently based in LA, Los Angeles, and right now she's touring Europe. How are you today, Bianca? Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
All right, so first question, tell us about your tour so far.
My tour's been really great. I've had actually, I would say it kind of started in June. In June, July, I was out here in Europe and had a few shows and festivals, and then came back to the States for a few weeks, had some shows then, and then I came back to Europe to continue the second half of the tour. And I've been to I played Boomtown Festival in Winchester, UK. I went to Prague, Amsterdam, Barcelona, and I have a few more cities in Spain I'll be going to, as well as another show in London at Fabric.
Awesome. Yeah. So where are you currently based right now?
I'm based in Los Angeles.
Okay. But I mean, where in Europe?
Oh, we're in Europe. Oh, in London.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Um, how is the London dance music scene similar or different compared to what you have in LA?
I would say there's a lot more, there are a lot more clubs that cater to the kind of sounds that I am interested in, that I play, that I produce. Obviously, there's a strong sound system culture that was kind of forged here and that thrives here. And there's a lot more appreciation for different kinds of sounds in that realm. And I think in Los Angeles, there's still that appreciation and those sounds, but it's definitely more of an underground space. And so we have to throw a lot of our parties in warehouses, and we have to sort of seek out our sound systems, and they're not necessarily right there in the club spaces for us.
Tell me about some of the sounds that you are interested in.
Definitely, I love, in terms of the UK sound system culture, grime, jungle, and a lot of like UK funky, and then sort of in other realms, I really love like kind of the global club sound, which is basically like just pulling from different uh Afro diasporas in Brazil, like baile funk, dembo, in Dominican Republic, reggaeton, and those different sounds, and definitely also strong influence from US club music, Jersey Club, Baltimore, etc.
Mhm. Yeah. I've been listening to a bit of grime recently. Kano's is Made in the Manor. It's a wonderful album. I'm not sure if you've listened to that one.
Sorry, you cut out for a second. Say that
Oh,
again.
I was mentioning an album by the famous grime artist Kano, Made in the Manor, released in 2016. Yeah, not sure if you've heard that one. Yeah.
I listened to like earlier Kano stuff, but I haven't heard that specific album. But definitely, he's one of the legends.
Mhm. Yeah, I discovered that he was on a show to Top Boy on Netflix. That's a fascinating show. Yeah, I know that Brian Eno does the soundtrack for it, and the show was on for 2 seasons, and then uh, Drake from Toronto, he paid attention and he revived the show. So, have you watched any of it?
I've watched some of it, but I definitely need to dig in and watch more. I know it's a huge show, and obviously it showcases a lot of London culture are part of it.
Mhm. Yeah. So when are you getting back to America?
I will be returning next week.
Okay. And where else in Europe are you visiting?
So this weekend I will be playing in Madrid, Spain, and Zaragoza, Spain.
Mhm. So, is there anything about the Spanish dance music scene that fascinates you?
I think that generally the Spanish culture just loves kind of like late nights and parties and having, enjoying life. And I think their parties for sure have gone the latest of different clubs that I've played. So it's just really fun to have, a late dinner, a late, kind of like a rest and then getting into the club. But definitely, every time I played in other Spanish cities, there's always a lot of energy, a lot of dancing, and just like good vibes.
Mhm. Yeah, I've definitely want to visit Spain for years, and I hope to have a chance to do so in the next few years since I'm in the European continent as well. And aside from the musical gigs, have you had a chance to do any sightseeing?
I did actually. So I've been to Barcelona quite a few times, but whenever I go visit there, I always love going to the beach. And when I was in Amsterdam, it was my first time there. So actually, I went a week before my show weekend, and I just kind of walked around, just sort of took in the sights, and just really got a feel for the city. And then the next weekend I was there, I did a little bit of that too, but I wasn't there as long. Prague, I definitely spent the whole day just walking around, going out to eat, and just I was going there with a friend who lives there, so she kind of showed me around.
Mhm. Yeah, I think my favorite thing to do whenever I visit a new city, and Budapest, where I currently am, is no exception, is that rather than going to all the places that they say that you have to go, I prefer to just walk around and enjoy the city, particularly in the evening. So I wonder if you're the ones who like to go check out the sites, or if you're the walking around type.
I definitely am a wanderer. I love to wander at night as well, and then during the day for sure. And I think in the past I've gone and done some like touristy sightseeing, especially when I was in Italy and the first time I went to Paris.
Mhm,
But since then, I think I like to just kind of arrive in a city and just kind of explore for myself and just stumble upon some of the, larger monuments or tourist attractions.
mhm. Yeah. So I'm originally from Hanoi, Vietnam, and it's a city that I would encourage you to go to both as a musician and also as a visitor, because Vietnam, like all other big cities, have a dance music subculture, and I would imagine a pretty vibrant one. I remember I used to be I used to work at a bar in the I guess the Western neighborhood, and that's where all the Western expats live. And they have a they have a noise music night, which was really fascinating. Hanoi is what they call it, and I admittedly I couldn't stay past 30 minutes, even though I had to work there and I had to like go outside for a few minutes because it was too loud. But what is it about dance music that, in your view, that sparks a subculture wherever you go, especially in the cities?
Well, to answer your first question or to your first topic, I definitely would love to go to Vietnam. It's kind of on the top of my list for next year, and I've got some interest there for some collectives that want me to come and play.
Mhm,
But I think just everyone, uh, people just love to release, to come together, to dance, to just enjoy movement. And I think wherever you go, what people want specific um sounds that aren't just necessarily pushed to them in the mainstream. They want to find their own way. And I think, you know, in any city, in any, especially in like larger cities where they have some more resources and, um, larger groups of people from different cities, different countries come together. And I think they, interact with each other and want to kind of find a space together that kind of brings them all together and based on like their certain love of music and dancing and culture. And I think that it's, a really beautiful thing because you can go to any major city in the world and usually find a specific club or scene and kind of like come to it and feel like you have some familiarity with it, even if you don't know the language, even if you don't know the people, the specific scene itself. It's like you still find some points of connection, which I think is really cool.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing about music that well that enables you to be a touring artist too, is that it transcends linguistic boundaries. So even if I speak a different language from you, I can still enjoy your music.
Absolutely. And that's what I've learned just traveling in different countries. It's like even if we don't have the same language or, the same cultures, it's like the music really just brings everyone together. And I've been able to connect with people in the clubs and on the dance floors. And it's a really amazing thing.
Mhm. Yeah, so prior to having this conversation, you were in the studio, presumably doing some recording. So describe that experience.
So I was in a studio in central London, and I was working with a friend of mine, Murdy, he wrote,
Mhm.
and we were just working on some new songs together. And we have a show together on Friday, the one in London at Fabric. So we're gonna play a back-to-back set. So we just wanted to get together, and we had been wanting to work together for a while. We've been friends for a while, and so we had a lot of fun just coming together and making music.
Mhm. So, what is the difference between a recording session in the studio and a live set in, say, a club or some a similar kind of venue?
So a studio session is where producers will come together and work on a DAW, which is digital audio, workstation. And so basically what you're doing is bringing different electronics or any kind of sounds together and composing a new song. And I mean, for me, a live set is just me going into a club and playing, songs that are already finished, right? And playing them live for people and mixing them together on CDJs.
Mhm.
So that's basically the difference. But some people, um, the way they perform live is they actually use the DAW to, you know, to put the sounds like live, and they live kind of like trigger them, and they put all kinds of different things together. That's kind of um a different performance. So it's not really a DJ set, but I don't perform that way. I just perform in DJ sets.
Mhm. Yeah. So, with that said, tell us about a typical Bianca Oblivion set.
A typical set for me is really just high energy. I pull together all kinds of different sounds. As I mentioned before, I really draw from a lot of the Afro diaspora, a lot of um, drums, rhythmic sounds, and just kind of interesting songs I find all over the internet. A lot of friends who are producers will send me music, and I'll play their songs. A lot of bass, just like high energy, and gets people dancing.
Mhm. Yeah. So, how important it is for you to keep the I guess the dancing mood going or the vibe going. And I'm assuming that a typical set would go on for hours, right?
So usually my sets are usually like 2 hours,
Mhm.
maybe longer sometimes. I've played, much longer sets in the past, but typically these days my sets are about 2 hours or a little less. And I definitely am, if I'm at kind of like a peak hour, I definitely am there to get people, to get people going, to get the energy up, to get people dancing. But if I'm opening for a set, I kind of read the room very carefully. I try to just like start the vibe. I start kind of lower energy and build it up as people come in, just to kind of, um, just sort of when you're opening a set, you want to sort of introduce the night, and you don't want to just go in hard and fast right away. So it's just sort of building the mood.
Mhm. Yes. So I'd like to hear more about how you came up with your stage name. Bianca Oblivion.
It's actually a reference to a David Cronenberg film.
Mm.
If you're familiar
Oh,
with
right.
video,
Dr. Brian Oblivion.
yes, and
Videodrome.
yeah, Videodrome, and his daughter in the film is named Bianca Oblivion. And
Oh, all right.
I saw this, I saw the film, a long, long time ago, and I always thought that was kind of a funny coincidence, or just I really liked that, we kind of shared that. And
Mhm,
it was actually my MySpace name long ago, and when I started DJing, it kind of just became my DJ name by
mhm,
default.
mhm. Yeah, I could talk about David Cronenberg movies for hours. Are you a big fan of it?
Yeah, I love David Cronenberg, for sure. I love a lot of his films, and I just think, you know, I guess if I'm trying to read deeper into it, I just like how he's, pushing boundaries and just kind of going on his own path, and really kind of has his own specific style. And I'm not saying that that's me necessarily, but I definitely like that, kind of to dive into different realms of music and weirder areas and kind of push the boundaries a bit.
Mhm. Yeah, and I remember the a recent David Cronenberg movie that I saw is his adaptation of Naked Lunch by William S. Burroughs, and in it there's this magnificently bizarre soundtrack that obviously was composed by Howard Shore, who would later do the Lord of the Rings movies, as well as other Cronenberg movies too. But he invited the brilliant jazz trumpeter Ornette Coleman in it, and the result is just really fitting for the film's chaotic moods.
Yeah, I've seen Naked Lunch a long time ago, so I can't really remember the exact details of it, but I remember it was a very bizarre film, and there was just a lot of surreal moments in it.
Yeah, and yeah, even the less surreal Cronenberg movies. I remember seeing A History of Violence too, which is gritty and realistic movie. There's always a sense of claustrophobia in his movies, as if like there's always something bizarre going to happen at every corner. And there's this other movie too called Cosmopolis, which literally takes place in a limousine. So you can picture how claustrophobic it is.
I absolutely love History of Violence. It's definitely one of my favorite ones from him. And I actually think his films that are trying to be not trying to be bizarre and like kind of like shock value grotesque are
Mhm,
some of the most profound, because he really gets into some interesting like narrative rabbit holes and twists and turns, and you just kind of don't know what to expect. And then I think those surprises for me are sort of the most fun. But obviously, obviously it's in classic Cronenberg fashion. He definitely gets very visceral, and you know like you were saying, kind of like claustrophobic. Everything's very like tight. You feel like you're right in people's faces.
yeah, I have a friend who's Canadian, and he would get me to watch David Cronenberg movies for years. But now I finally watch it, and now I can share that with him. And so that I wonder, have you had any involvement with the Canadian music scene at all?
I have, in fact, this year was my first year playing in Canada, and I've been playing actually a few different cities. I started off playing in Toronto and Montreal earlier this spring. And then this past in the summer in July, I played the Base Coast Festival, which is in British Columbia in a small town called Merritt, BC. And that was a really incredible experience. I had a lot of fun there. Really,
Mhm.
really just amazing curation and design, and people. It was a really great experience. And I also got to play in Montreal also in the summer, and that was really fun to see the city kind of come to life in the heat. It's
Hmm.
usually very cold there. And actually, next week when I come back to the States or North America, I'm going to be playing in the Yukon territory
Well,
in Canada, which is pretty exciting, as I'd never thought I would reach DJing out there.
hmm yeah, it's quite unexpected too because I would never figure the Yukon for like a dance music hub, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, there's just an underground collective of people there that are putting on events, and they reached out to me after they saw me at Base Coast, and I thought it would be a really amazing opportunity. So I said, yeah, let's do it.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been to both Toronto and Montreal a couple of times, and I should say that I prefer Montreal a bit more, mainly because well, it's prettier, and two because it's the home of my favorite musician Leonard Cohen, and also because I do know quite a few dance music figures there from Montreal. I was actually introduced to you by this lady, Danica Olders. She is a DJ as well as a fashion designer. I think her fashion brand is called Bad World, and she recently hosted a pool party called Bad Fest, right?
Yes, exactly. That's where I played in Montreal
Oh,
this summer. And yeah, so Danica was fantastic. Bad World Party was amazing. And she made me a really beautiful custom robe that I really love. So
mhm,
that was fantastic. And I got to work in the studio with her partner James, and we had a lot of fun out there. So yeah, I stayed with her and James, and it was just a really really fun weekend.
mhm. And another figure that played in the Bad Fest pool party too was this woman Peggy Hogan, or her stage name is Hua Li. She's Chinese Canadian, and I'm actually more better friends with her than with Danica. And we sort of connected because we are from the same East Asian descent. You know, her Chinese and I Vietnamese, and we've been good friends. So I wonder if you and her have crossed paths.
We didn't really get to hang out at the event, but I think we met briefly.
Mhm. Yeah, you should yeah, you should check out her work. She's amazing, and I love for the two of you to get to know each other more. She's
No,
amazing.
definitely. I definitely want to make it back to Montreal very soon.
Hmm. Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yes.
So, tell me more about the LA dance music scene where you belong to.
So LA is a very interesting place. Obviously, it's very large. I mean, it's just the area that LA covers, like Los Angeles City and Los Angeles County, is massive.
Mhm,
So it really takes a lot from people it just takes influences from people all over the city, and people come from different parts of the city to come together, for parties and events and everything. And like I said before, for me, the thriving part of the scene is the underground. And there's a lot of warehouse parties that happen that are basically clubs built in a night, right? We have a raw space, and you bring in a sound system, lighting, um, you know, CDJs and everything, and you have people show up at an undisclosed location uh and party all night.
mhm,
So it's pretty amazing that it's been going on for so long, and really thriving actually since in the past few years. I think a lot of different sounds and scenes are kind of coming up that weren't necessarily represented before. And I think so as well. I mean, as well as the underground, there's obviously different club nights that are happening that are, I think, pretty have a pretty good representation of like the global club sound. music from, like Brazil, South Africa, just different regions in Latin America, and all over the world. And I think that's South Asia as well. There's a lot of really amazing music coming in from all over the world.
Mhm. Yeah. I would love to attend one of your sets at some point, whether when I'm in LA or when you revisit Europe. I know that Budapest has a thriving underground dance scene, so I look forward to that.
Yeah, I would definitely love to visit Budapest and other parts of Europe that I have not visited yet. I definitely am looking to explore all different territories.
Mhm. Yeah. So speaking of all the different sounds and the regions where they come from, how do you become exposed to these influences? Is it because there are DJs that were from that area that brought in the sounds there, or did you visit the areas yourself?
Um, a little bit of both, and a little bit of just internet hunting.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll hear different songs or sounds or genres in other DJ sets, and I'll be like, "Oh, what was that?" And maybe I'll Shazam it, or I'll ask them, or
Hmm.
kind of figure it out. And then I'll just kind of go into a rabbit hole and just like search out different artists and songs based off of that. Or yeah, if I'm visiting a specific city or country and hear those songs like in the streets or in the clubs, and I'll kind of just like do some more research on that. Um, Obviously there's, songs or sounds from just my own city in Los Angeles. There's a thriving Latin American community, Mexican American and Central American, and that is something that I draw a lot of inspiration from as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and I've also heard that LA is home to a thriving East Asian population, particularly Vietnamese. So it would be good to draw cues from you know, that particular subculture.
Definitely, I have a really good friend by the name of Demon Slayer, and he is Vietnamese and
Mhm.
has spent time in Los Angeles and in Vietnam. So I know that he's got the finger on the pulse of what's going on out there, and brings it to LA and vice versa. So he's definitely someone that I am um when I get to go to Vietnam, I'm definitely going to consult him because he is kind of the expert on that scene for me.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. What are some of the countries and regions in the world that you haven't been to but you would like to go to?
God, that is a very long list, but one of the top places on my list I'm actually going to in October, and that's Brazil. I'm going there for a week, and
Mhm.
I'm going to visit Rio, Sao Paulo, and Curitiba. And I'm ecstatic. I cannot wait to go and play and experience the culture. So definitely high on my list. Would love to visit more places in South America, Colombia as well, Ecuador, in Central America. I would love to visit, you know, um, India as well, and many on all over East Asia, China, Vietnam, Thailand, Japan, and Indonesia. I have not been to that part of the world, and I'm extremely excited. And also next year, I should be going on tour in Australia and New Zealand. So huge area that I would really love to explore.
Yeah, I would say that Latin America would definitely be a place where I'd like to visit since well, some of my favorite writers are there, and I hear that they have great beaches. Yeah.
Yes, everywhere in Latin America, I'm really excited to go to, and I've been to I've been to Mexico quite a few times already, but I would like to visit places in Mexico I haven't been. It's a very big country. Um, I haven't been to the Yucatan yet. I definitely would like to go there, and to San Miguel de Allende, Puebla, and other places that I cannot think of right now. Jalisco, Guadalajara.
Mhm. Yeah. So Tell me about your upbringing. Did you grow up in Los Angeles?
Yes, I've been born and raised in Los Angeles, in the west side of Los Angeles.
Hmm. So how did music enter your life?
My family was always very musical. Everyone was just kind of listening to um music from all over the world and pop music, rock music, soul, hip hop, funk, really everything. And so I just grew up in just hearing everything all the time at a very young age.
Mhm. Was the dance music scene thriving where you grew up?
Yes, actually, I really loved 80s freestyle when I was a kid because that was very big back in the 80s. And it was kind of the rise of kind of like uh, techno starting and house, and it was just Madonna was really big and just a bunch of other kind of like 80s dance music, new wave. And those all that music was just kind of really formative, I think, for me as a kid and I was growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a great fondness for the 80s because it was where some of the most popular music at that time were by some of the most creative people. You had your Talking Heads and Blondie and New Order, and that's just the pop music. There's obviously rap was a growing phenomenon, and some of the earliest DJs and rappers were immensely creative people. So it was a great time for music, I think.
Yeah, I think, all the artists you mentioned were huge influences for me, even if it's not necessarily the music that I'm making. It was just hearing all of that was, it was just being exposed to all of that music was really important, I think. And again, yes, as you mentioned, the emergence of hip hop was really huge for me as well. I loved, dancing as a kid, so all of that music was super important for me, just as like a foundation of dance music.
Mhm. Yeah, and so tell me about how you discover new music these days.
Well, I definitely am out listening to different DJ sets, so I hear new music through that, um, through people's mixes online, through people posting you know, in Instagram stories on TikTok, and friends feeds that are posting about their own new music, and through Bandcamp. Through Spotify recommendations, walking down the street, Shazamming something in the club, um, texting friends different links and people sending me their links and their, promotion emails. Really, there's not a day or honestly hour that goes by that I'm not receiving or looking for new music. So it's kind of just like ingrained in me.
Yeah, so I think I really would like to maintain the attitude of being open to new music as I grow older because I find that it's not it's not a common thing because for people as they get older they tend to stay with the same kinds of music that they grew up with, and at a certain age they just stop discovering new music. So I wonder, do you have a tip or a trick in order to maintain this curiosity?
I think yeah, just you just have to keep an open mind. Like there's always going to be music that you don't necessarily connect with, and there's always going to be times when you're like, oh, I wish it was this way or back in these days kind of sentiment. But I hear different music and different genres all the time, and I just try to stay open to it, even if I don't necessarily like it one day, or if I hear it and don't necessarily like it at that moment, may hear it in someone else's DJ set, or a few months down the line and kind of have a different openness to it, or I perceive it a bit differently. So I don't necessarily um you know turn something down automatically. It's just kind of like, okay, I'm not really feeling this right now, but that's not to say that I won't later.
I'd like to hear more from you about how music is a vehicle to connect people because I thought that in this day and age, maybe because of technology and also a host of other factors, we've become disconnected as individuals. And I think it's quite fortunate that we still have music because as you've witnessed during your DJ sets, you can bring anyone in any disparate background in a room together and play the same songs, and everyone will vibe to these same songs, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially when I've like curated parties on my own in Los Angeles, just being able to have people from different backgrounds come together, and you just like create a space for people that are where they kind of just like let their guard down, like release their tension and just kind of come together and have fun and meet people who are, into the same music, the same vibe, and just want to have a nice time. I think it's a really amazing thing that that you can create in this world if you can bring people together through music. And um yeah, and again, in different cities, just like seeing different, you know, cultures come together, whether it's, you know, uh, different communities, marginalized communities, queer communities, communities of color, and just people bringing people together that way, I think is a really powerful thing.
Mhm. Yeah. So aside from the music of Los Angeles, what do you like most about the city?
About Los Angeles,
Yeah.
I just think there's never um there's always something to discover. It's so massive, and there's so many places um in it, and so many things to do, so many people that you're always discovering. It's like I've lived there my whole life, but there's places I've still never been in Los Angeles, and um you're constantly meeting different people from different backgrounds. There's people always visiting, and I just think it's a huge it's a hub for sure. And there's, you can have the beach, you have the mountains. It's just like a really incredible landscape. I think there's just a lot of opportunities there if you're able to kind of navigate it. And I think it's different for, or it's kind of difficult for some people because it's not like laid out in a typical sort of city fashion. It's very much just a very spread out metropolis that isn't really conducive to like city center kind of walking around situation. You definitely are driving around a lot, but if you are able to sort of navigate it in your own way, I think you can just really find some incredible experiences there.
Mhm. Yeah, I had a conversation with a musician from who's living in LA. Incidentally, she's from Brazil, so I can send you her stuff later on. Um, I guess her experience with Los Angeles is not as rosy as you perhaps, because she finds that the experience of living in LA it means being surrounded by people who only care about the clout, so to speak, especially those whose lives are dependent on, their social media rankings and such. So I wonder if you feel the same way about it.
I have a different perception only because I'm from there, and I think that people that are not from there kind
Oh.
of get maybe caught up in it, or this that's a side that they only see because that is part of it. That is what people because that is part of the music industry, sorry, the movie industry. A lot of different, media industries are based there. Hollywood is there. So I think for a lot of people, followers and influencers and sort of cloud and numbers and this and that, it is a part of a lot of people's existence, but it doesn't necessarily have to be if you don't like subscribe to that, and if you just kind of take a step back and just like go off and do your own thing. um I mean, obviously that's a part of our new world, right? That's a way, that's how people are kind of perceived now, is through their social media, and we can't really escape it. I think LA, a lot of people who are seeking that life and seeking that world and want to kind of be in that industry go to LA. It's obviously where, like I said, it's a hub, but and the thing is, if those people aren't from LA, and it's kind of like its own little microcosm there, it's just like its own sphere of things. Like if you're stuck in this Hollywood bubble, that's all you're going to see, and that's the only thing you're going to judge LA on. But if you kind of take a step back and outside of that, you don't necessarily need to um, buy into that or subscribe to that or worry about that as much. Um, and I think growing up in that, you sort of kind of develop a bit more of an awareness or kind of like a detachment from it. Like, yes, as an artist myself, I do need to worry about these things sometimes, but it's not necessarily something that consumes me. And I'm able to sort of, distance myself from it to a degree. And I think, oh, like so many people's experience is having to deal with the industry and the Hollywood, the hype and all of that. And for me it's just not that, because I've seen so many other different elements of LA that is not that. So it's, yeah, unfortunately it's a sort of a trap that is LA, that that world, but that's definitely not been my experience.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that there's a difference in, I guess, mentality and culture between those who are born and raised in LA, like yourself, and others who move there in order to chase something.
Yeah, and I'm sure if I went to another city that was sort of like a cultural hub and kind of only saw that side, I would think that as well. But it's just like when you have family there for generations and you've seen different sides, you get a different feeling for it. And also, I think growing up with it, it's kind of like it's almost like when you build an immunity to a disease, right? You have kind of this immunity to just like fakeness and clout chasing and stuff, and you can kind of see through people really quickly, and that kind of is like an automatic filter. So if someone's talking to you about this or that, you're like, all right, this guy is clearly trying to sell me something or is kind of having some sort of Hollywood moment. You kind of just like you know smile, wave, and move on. So, uh, and I think actually that's part of why I'm so grateful for being raised in LA, is that since I am in the music industry now, I can kind of see through a lot of BS, and I can really navigate certain situations with a clear head, just because I know what I want for myself as an artist, and I know people who are going to sort of help me get there and are going to support me. And I know people who are going to say that they want to do that, but really have other intentions.
Mhm. I'd like to hear more about how you inculcate yourself against this cloud chasing mentality. Is it mainly the company that you keep, the friends that you have or don't have, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, it's really just a matter of that. It's just like I know who my friends are, and I know who my acquaintances are, and I know who the people are that I need to interact with in order to do business in the world of music. And it's just knowing who you are, having a strong sense of self, and just knowing your place in all of this, in this world, knowing that it exists, accepting it, and just kind of just staying true to yourself really is the only advice that I can give. Yeah, like I just I obviously it's hard sometimes when you get caught up in just like the social media, the numbers and all of that, but at the end of the day, for myself, in terms of work, in terms of my art and my music, uh it's I just focus on that. Like whenever I kind of get caught up in anything else, I just focus, kind of refocus myself. All right, this is what I'm here for, this is what I'm passionate about, and I just keep the focus going. And again, taking breaks from LA is perfectly fine too. Like I going on tour has been a wonderful experience, and stepping outside of LA and experiencing other places, cities, and cultures is an incredible opportunity that I'm always grateful for. and then, kind of returning back home with a different perspective and just having, taken some time off and then being able to come back and still enjoy my life there.
Mhm. Yeah, it goes to show you that there's a whole world outside of LA, right?
Exactly.
So aside from LA, what are the dance music scenes in America that you are fond of?
Definitely New York. Obviously, there's a whole incredible thriving scene there. A lot of my friends are out there DJing and producing. I really love New Orleans. It's a really incredible city. A lot of amazing culture and music there. Miami also really fun. Love playing there. San Francisco, I play there a lot as well. I have a lot of family there also. Um, I would say I haven't gotten to play in many cities in the US, but I'm still kind of like racking up my city count, and hopefully after these next 2 years I'll have visited more cities. I definitely actually Texas, I really love playing in Austin. Houston's really fun as well. Um but yeah, I'm really looking forward to hitting some more US cities in
Mhm.
the near future.
Yeah, you're a very well-traveled person.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out there and play more. Atlanta as well. I love Atlanta.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I love to visit America at some point, and yeah, I'm still trying to decide where I should be first, because there's just so many great cities in your home country.
Yeah, it's so massive. That's why it's like I come out to Europe and I can hit like 5 different countries in a tour. I go to the US and I'm still basically hitting some of the same territories I've been. It's just like it's just so huge, and it takes a long time to get from one side to the other.
Yeah, and it's not it's kind of like the same in Canada too, because even though the landmass in Canada is bigger than the US, there are I think five big Canadian cities, and I think they're all located in the East Coast.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of land out there, and the cities are more spread apart.
Yeah, I think minus Vancouver, but yeah, all the cities are practically in the East Coast. So, who are some of your favorite artists to listen to?
Oof, that's tough. I have a lot of favorites, but I really love King Doodoo. He's an artist in France.
Mhm.
Um, I love a lot of the music. My friend in New York, Jubilee, she has a label that I've released on, and really love her music as well. Um, I I don't know, there's like a lot of SoundCloud edits and producers that I am blanking on at the moment, but I there's just all kinds of music that's coming out just daily that I'm really excited by.
So, what are some of the challenges that you face in the music industry that you find to be, well, the most challenging?
Um, I think just for me, I think being in LA has been a bit of a challenge just because it's a bit far away from the the areas of music that I am so more drawn to. So I think, like for instance, the European and UK scenes um are kind of more what I lean towards musically, and being far away from that, I think has sort of put me at a bit of a disadvantage in terms of just touring and just having a bit more access to press and just being closer to like things that are going on. But I also try to reframe that as kind of setting me aside, because of like kind of like putting me in a different how do I say this? It it makes me like more unique, I think. Just like someone that is so far from that yet is like creating this, their own sound. And I think um being sort of a representative for my scene and my city and my culture is something that's really important to me. And I think um, you know, sort of being a leader in that way, I think is really important, and just kind of being like um true to myself and just like representing for myself and like my city and everything. And doing that abroad has been really cool. And so while it's been in disadvantage in some ways, I think in other ways um it's pretty unique.
So how do you craft a sound or a style that is distinctively your own?
um I think it's just kind of by default. It's just the music that I'm drawn to, and when I'm creating music and producing just different sounds that I bring together in my own way. I'm not necessarily thinking about like, okay, how does this sound? Like, wait, how do I make this unique to me? Like, I think it just happens organically because of what I like and the things that I'm drawn to and the taste that I have developed. It just kind of becomes sort of, my sound. And I think genre wise, I'm always going kind of all over the place and experimenting. So I guess in that way, that is part of my sound, just kind of crossing different genres and kind of exploring different realms of music and bringing those together.
And I think another issue that I've heard in the music industry in general, and perhaps LA in particular as well, is the difficulty of finding people who has your best interests or who are generally supportive of you. So I wonder if you've had this challenge yourself.
I definitely think LA is a hard market at times, and it's hard to get people out to your parties and promote it. I've definitely lost money at parties during events, and it's not easy for sure. But you just kind of keep going, and you find your core group of people, and you just kind of stick with them and support each other. Um, I also have just kind of personally, I have a lot of support from my family, and so I like kind of just like come back to them as sort of my foundation and my base.
Mhm. Do you think that it is important also to have like a life outside of your work?
Um, yes, I mean, at this point in my life, my life is my work and my work is my life. But obviously, I'm not always in the clubs. I'm not always in the studio. I have a lot of time with my family. We do things together, and I have time with my friends. But I would say like I'm never not doing something for my career, whether it's like sending texts or emails on the go, or just like I said, listening to music and kind of like, kind of filing that away for a future set or anything. So I can't at this point they're kind of very much intertwined. Obviously, I'm not always doing business stuff or like I said, clubbing or DJing and going in the studio, but um this is something that is uh so much a part of me that it's sort of hard to like detach it. But again, like work is kind of relative. um it's when it's something that you're really passionate about, you just keep doing it, and so you can't really separate yourself from it.
Mhm. Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is that it's yeah, even if you do enjoy your work, which I'm sure you do, um, I think a sense of leisure is quite important. I remember many times when whenever I'm not doing something, whether it's my relaxed day, I feel like really guilty about it because I should be working on this and this and that, but And then I remember that, we're humans, right? We're not machines.
Yeah, no, I definitely have my off days where I just like at home, just like in my pajamas and just like being lazy. That is well, not lazy, but just not doing anything. I do a lot of that. Or I just like love going to the beach, or I just, go walk around the park, or especially when I'm on tour, I actually really love to build in those days where, like we were saying, just like wandering the city. For me, that's like I try to build in my leisure time within my tour time if I can, where I have a day off and I just like wander the city, go to the beach, or just go shopping, or just go eat at a nice restaurant. And for me, that's it's just like building in those leisure moments, so those moments of rest and relaxation and enjoyment within my day-to-day life if I can, or week to week.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's important that when you do rest, you feel like well deserved, right? I mean, like this is a treat I have for myself, and I deserve it.
Definitely. And like when I'm touring, for instance, like I don't like to party really hard at my gigs. I don't like to really drink at my gigs so that I can then enjoy the days when I'm off and really get to see the cities and just like experience that. Because like for me, I think I feel so lucky to be able to travel and work, um, doing what I'm doing. And so, places that I would have loved to visit if I wasn't a DJ, just as like a tourist, and plans trips and holidays and vacations in these different cities, I actually get to go be there and DJ, but I also want to kind of build in that time to explore and just like really take in the city as I would as a tourist as well.
Oh, so final question, Bianca. What does music mean to you?
Wow. Music is to me one of the ultimate forms of just human expression and connection. I think eh, every human can make music. We have the ability. Every human can connect to music in the most primal way. I think we've this to be human is to be musical. And so and for me, I think that is why like we were kind of just every conversation we've been having around connecting different cultures and cities and scenes, it's because um you know because we are human, we are able to connect on these in these ways. If we can't speak to each other, we can play music for each other. We can go see people singing or playing musical instruments or just coming together. People come together and as the band and can maybe not communicate through speaking, but if they play and start, you know, jamming together, they can create an entire song together. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, it's just like the ultimate form of human expression and connection, I think.
Mhm. On that wonderful note, thank you very much, Bianca Oblivion, for joining this program.
Thank you so much for having me.